it's something that is done with a lot of expertise to say, okay, does this sound like it's reasonable? Does the person who's submitting the tip have a basis of knowledge? And were they in a position, or are they in a position now to have that quote inside information that may be part of that, what they call rich picture of intelligence and information that can go together and form almost a tapestry of information that can hopefully lead to her safe recovery and the arrest and conviction of the kidnapper or kidnappers. And so it's that analysis that is done in terms of, yes, you triage the ones that appear the most likely, and then the other ones you still will follow up on. But going back to any major investigation I've been involved in, you do have to triage, and then those that you find credible and relevant, then you make sure you're doing everything possible. Every type of investigative resource will be applied to those to say, let's rule this out and before we do anything else. And if we can't rule it out, then we'll pursue it until a logical end.
We are currently at the 2-week mark in this investigation. How does a probe like this change as time passes? What should people expect?
Well, I think people are frustrated because this investigation is playing out in the public. And oftentimes kidnapping cases are not played out in the public, where the ransom note is delivered to the family, and with typically a note in the note to say, do not contact law enforcement, do not involve outsiders, because if you do, then we will harm your relative, in this case, or mom. And so that's part of it. And so this just takes on a whole different perspective, with it being Savannah Guthrie's mother, being such a well-known figure, Savannah, and then what is the end game for this kidnapper? And hopefully it's to try to get the ransom. But again, without a proof of life, there will be no ransom. There should not be any ransom paid, because they just don't know whether they're not going to pay a ransom unless they know she can be returned safely.
The FBI is awaiting DNA analysis from a glove found near Nancy Guthrie's home. The FBI says the glove appears to match those worn by the suspect in a video recorded by Guthrie's doorbell camera the morning she disappeared. The 84-year-old has now been missing for 2 weeks, and there have been no arrests. Investigators are also analyzing DNA that was found at her property, which officials say does not match Guthrie or anyone close to her. CNN correspondent Ivan Rodriguez is on the ground in Tucson. He joins us now. Ivan, what are you hearing there on the ground tonight?
Well, Paul, I can tell you that throughout the day, we've continuously seen people approach the front of Nancy Guthrie's home here, leave behind yellow flowers, signifying hope for her safe return. Other people maybe just wanting to drive by just to be able to see what all of this media presence here looks like as Nancy Guthrie's search continues on now as we enter that 3rd week. In the last 2 weeks, though, Paula, we can really say that we've witnessed different kinds of breakthroughs. We saw the images released by the FBI showing that man approaching Nancy Guthrie's front door, caught on camera wearing dark clothing, a backpack, a gun in front of him on a waistband in a holster. FBI have described this man as anywhere from 5'9" to 5'10" tall with an average build. And now this latest development here with the FBI saying that a glove found near Nancy Guthrie's property visually matches a glove that this man is seen wearing in that doorbell footage is, again, that next latest breakthrough that hopefully can bring about another lead. We know that the FBI is still analyzing the DNA of that glove, and we're told that process could take anywhere between 24 to 48 hours. So we're anxiously awaiting, as you can imagine, the Guthrie family.
Now, they've been on this glove and they've been on his glove and this videotape for almost 5 days now. Do they really think that these people who just made a woman vanish is going to make a mistake like that and leave a glove, an obvious glove? You're not able to find no body. You're not able to find no vehicles. They just literally made a woman vanish. And they keep falling for the banana in the tailpipe. You really think these guys are going to leave a glove? If they left a glove, it's because they want you to find it, stupid. They want you to find a glove because they want you stuck in that area. As long as you're in Nancy's house, you're not a threat. And this is just a little bit, arrogance playing out here, because they're not seeing the big picture. They're not realizing what they're up against. They are playing this out like these are some kidnappers who want money. Dude, them deadline for the ransom notes been gone. Nancy been gone. And you're still stuck in this. Only way you're going to crack this case is at the core of the beginning of the case. You have to attack the family. That's the only way. That is the only way that you're going to be able to get it done. You have to go back to the very beginning and start all over again and go through everything. Because them raiding people's homes, detaining people, because now they're relying on tips, hotlines, that's not going to get anything done. It's not going to get done. All you're going to do is just mess with people, go in their home, destroy their homes, question them, and then you're going to walk away empty-handed. Because the reason why they're doing these raids is because they don't realize what they're up against. And this is because, large in part, because the FBI and the local police are divided. The local police don't like the FBI. They don't want them there. So they're withholding evidence from them. They're not letting them in on a lot of their meetings. And this is a conflict of interest. And because of that, you actually make the case a lot harder, a lot more difficult. Now, the FBI got a warrant on some people, some random people, and turn up nothing. So the FBI are just trying to do something because they don't feel like they're being included in the overall premise of the investigation. So they're trying to let their presence be felt because they are being given orders from the top to make this case go away. Because really, if they really sit down and think about it, if they work together, everything starts in the beginning. All your answers are in the beginning. Right now, they're just chasing this video. Then they found a glove. Come on. These guys, they don't realize they're up against some very intelligent, maybe an organization. Gentlemen and ladies, this is not about kidnapping. This is not about kidnapping. This is about somebody being executed. This was a planned hit. And I don't know what Nancy knew. I don't know what type of information that she had to make these people come after her. But whatever it is that she knew, or whatever it is that she's done, or whoever wanted her out of here, it had to be some fierce enemies. And this is the organization. This is not no 1 or 2 people. Listen, 1 or 2 regular people couldn't pull this off. Them niggas would have been caught. They would have been caught. Some regular people, man, they'd have been in custody, facing a whole bunch of charges. This, just the complexity, it's been 2 weeks. And whoever is orchestrating this, is they got a lot of resources. They're very well connected, very well organized. And they know everything of how the police move. They know how to make the police chase ghosts. Because right now, the police are chasing ghosts. No arrest, but they pulling people over, detaining people, and they're wasting resources. When there's one, and there's one simple, there is a formula out there for this to get solved, or at least get a better hold of the case. But because the FBI and the local police are divided, I don't ever think they get there. This will become a cold case. A lot of people are going to get fired because there's a lot of pressure on this case, a lot of pressure, a lot of political pressure, a lot of government pressure to get this shit solved. So, we have on our hands here a mess.
Is the FBI showing that man approaching Nancy Guthrie's front door, caught on camera wearing dark clothing, a backpack, a gun in front of him on a waistband in a holster. FBI have described this man as anywhere from 5'9" to 5'10" tall with an average build. And now this latest development here with the FBI saying that a glove found near Nancy Guthrie's property visually matches a glove that this man is seen wearing in that doorbell footage. Is again that
the FBI is awaiting DNA analysis from a glove found near Nancy Guthrie's home. The FBI says the glove appears to match those worn by the suspect in a video recorded by Guthrie's doorbell camera the morning she disappeared. The 84-year-old has now been missing for 2 weeks, and there have been no arrests. Investigators are also analyzing DNA that was found at her property, which officials say does not match Guthrie or anyone close to her. CNN correspondent Ivan Rodriguez is on the ground in Tucson. He joins us now. Ivan, what are you hearing there on the ground tonight?
Well, Paul, I can tell you that throughout the day, we've continuously seen people approach the front of Nancy Guthrie's home here, leave behind yellow flowers, signifying hope for her safe return. Other people maybe just wanting to drive by just to be able to see what all of this media presence here looks like as Nancy Guthrie's search continues on now as we enter that third week. In the last 2 weeks, though, Paula, we can really say that we've witnessed different kinds of breakthroughs. We saw the images released by the FBI showing that man approaching Nancy Guthrie's front door, caught on camera wearing dark clothing, a backpack, a gun in front of him on a waistband in a holster. FBI have described this man as anywhere from 5'9" to 5'10" tall with an average build. And now this latest development here with the FBI saying that a glove found near Nancy Guthrie's property visually matches a glove that this man is seen wearing in that doorbell footage is again that next latest breakthrough that hopefully can bring about another lead. We know that the FBI is still analyzing the DNA of that glove, and we're told that process could take anywhere between 24 to 48 hours. So we're anxiously awaiting, as you can imagine the Guthrie family is, if they can identify this person. They'll first go through their criminal database, see if this person has any sort of criminal background. That would be the fastest way to be able to identify this person, experts say. But also, aside from this DNA evidence, the location of where this glove was found could also be an important clue in this investigation, because if that glove is said to be the glove that this person is wearing in that doorbell footage, it could also help trace the route that he took once he allegedly abducted Nancy Guthrie, and the route that he took to get out of this neighborhood. Now, in terms of the neighborhood itself, anyone who lives within a 2-mile radius is being asked by the sheriff's department today to submit any sort of video or images that they may have. But a big, really obstacle that a lot of investigators have been facing in the last 2 weeks is the fact that a lot of these homes are pushed far away from the road, meaning that for neighbors in this area, there's a sense of privacy, but also it's been very difficult to find that footage that could, again, bring in that one clue.
Ivan Rodriguez, thank you. And joining us now is former Deputy Director of the FBI, John Pistol. John, there has been some criticism over how this investigation is being handled, so I want you to take a listen to what one of Guthrie's neighbors had to say.
absolutely wish they were giving more information. I think the sheriff is a very experienced veteran of law enforcement, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's experienced with what this case is all about. And I mean, I feel like they invited the FBI in, or the FBI came in pretty quickly, but maybe it wasn't quite quickly enough.
What is your assessment of how this investigation has been handled so far?
Well, I think there's a lot of frustration out there because unfortunately she hasn't been found.
Bottom line is nobody likes the FBI because the FBI is arrogant pricks, right? Who wants to be around that? Local law enforcement, they're more, boots to the ground, get hands dirty type. So, I mean, two different agencies. But in my opinion, this is more of an FBI investigation because I think this supersedes the local resources or information. I believe these people who pulled this disappearing act made an 84 lady disappear. No signs of cars. No, nothing. She just literally disappeared. So whoever these people are, in my estimated opinion, are multiple people. It's an organization. I don't know what, like I said, I don't know what Nancy might have known or who wanted her out of here. But whoever it is very powerful. They got reach. They got people. They got so it ain't no. I think the FBI will be more capable because of their technology. But this is something far beyond the kidnapping for sure. I don't even think this. I think the kidnapping is just keeps them to call it something. Really, I think it's a murder for hire. That's what I think it is. I think a hit was put on her and she was taken out. Simple.
Back lead to her safe recovery and the arrest and conviction of the kidnappers. And so it's that analysis that is done in terms of, yes, you triage the ones that appear the most likely, and then the other ones you still will follow up on. But going back to any major investigation I've been involved in, you do have to triage, and then those that you find credible and relevant, then you make sure you're doing everything possible. Every type of investigative resource would be applied to those to say, let's rule this out, and before then we'll pursue it until a logical end.
We are currently at the 2-week mark in this investigation. How does a probe like this change as time passes? What should people expect?
Well, I think people are frustrated because this investigation is playing out in the public. And oftentimes kidnapping cases are not played out in the public, where the ransom note is delivered to the family, and with typically a note in the note to say, do not contact law enforcement, do not involve outsiders, because if you do, then we will harm your relative, in this case, or mom. And so that's part of it. And so this just takes on a whole different perspective, with it being Savannah Guthrie's mother, being such a well-known figure, Savannah, and then what is the end game for this kidnapper? And hopefully it's to try to get the ransom. But again, without a proof of life, there will be no ransom.
Breaking news, we got a live update from the sheriff.
Paid.
Breaking news, we got a live update from the sheriff office. Let's go to that. Let me go here. We got a breaking news. The sheriff is giving a live. Let's go to the sheriff is giving a live update on what's going on. Let's go. Let's go. Let's get to that.
We're not done with that. We'll do all we can, but that's what it says. About approximately 10 minutes later, 12 minutes later, our patrol teams arrive. They see the scene, and we start our response with our search and rescue teams and our detectives from homicide and various units. In fact, every unit here, I think somebody questioned, how come there's an ICAC member out here, or this member? Everybody in our criminal investigations team is a part of this team and part of this investigative effort. I think with that, let me make sure. Now, I want to clarify some things that I may have already done, but yeah, I've gone over with the blood at the front door, the doorbell camera. It was removed, we know that, but we're not confirming that any cameras were smashed or destroyed around the house. I don't know where that came from, but that's something we're not confirming. The car, the car that was at the home, it's just standard investigative practices. It's part of the search warrant scene, court orders. We pull it out of there and do our scene processing with the vehicle. Uber, we did speak to a driver because Nancy, we learned, had been taken the Uber to the family residence, the daughter, for dinner, and we located that driver and spoke with them and got that information. The house, you guys got this, I think, conducting follow-up. I think you said somebody had mentioned that they saw a team out there again last night or yesterday, and that's just, again, what I was talking about before. Our partners wanted a chance to see it and examine things themselves, and more importantly, it's just we're constantly following up on things and go, hey, what about this? So we want to go back and check on some things. Oh, here's the other. We have been very consistent. We are not discussing that at all, whether it's forced entry or not forced entry. That is something we're just not discussing. So I don't know where anybody got that information. I think I am about done with my piece of this. I'm going to bring up here Heath Yankee, and I think you know him if you haven't been here. John Edwards is the assistant agent in charge with the FBI here at the Tucson office. Heath Yankee is the special agent in charge for the state of Arizona out of Phoenix, and he will come up and speak.
Thank you, Sheriff. Hello, I'm Heath Yankee, the special agent in charge of the FBI's Phoenix Division. First, I want to let the Guthrie family know that our hearts are heavy for them. After seeing your message last night, it is clear that you and your family are in pain. Please know that we are doing everything to bring your mother home. The FBI is now working this case jointly with the Pima County Sheriff's Department, and we're going to start today by announcing a $50,000 reward for information leading to the recovery of Nancy Guthrie and or the arrest and conviction of anyone involved in her disappearance, and this will be the missing persons with the reward that will be going out. The FBI has agents, analysts, and professional staff employees working day and night with our partners at the Sheriff's Department. We have deployed additional intelligence and agents from our Phoenix office. We have brought in our critical incident response group from Quantico, Virginia. Members from our cellular analysis survey team are here, and they continue to collect and process digital information. We are actively reviewing and analyzing information from all digital sources, which includes banks, social media companies, phone companies, and any other organizations where a digital footprint could have been captured. All this information provides data points and helps put the picture together. And we will be in the community partners. You heard about us out there last night. We will be back out there today. I would ask the media, give our investigators the space to do their jobs while they're out there. Next, regarding the ransom letter. We are aware of a ransom letter that was sent to the local media and then to national outlets. As with every lead, we are taking it seriously. We are in communication with the family, and while we advise and recommend from a law enforcement perspective, any action taken on any ransom is ultimately decided by the family. Thank you to those in the community that have called in tips. For anyone out there that may have information, no matter how small you think it may be, please report it. You can do so by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI or online at tips.fbi.gov. My next message is to those imposters who are trying to take advantage and profit from this situation. We will investigate and ensure you are held accountable for your actions. We have made one arrest related to an imposter ransom demand, and a complaint will be presented to a magistrate judge later today. You will get more on that from the FBI and our U.S. Attorney's Office here in Arizona when it becomes available. To anyone that may be involved, do the right thing. This is an 84-year-old grandma. This is an 84-year-old grandma that needs vital medication for her well-being. You still have the time to do the right thing before this becomes a worse, much worse scenario for you. Please return Nancy home. Thank you.
This sounds nice. Sounds nice. But
prior to that, they had received 18,000. So think about that. If you've got 100 FBI agents on the ground, do the math. Just divide and conquer. That's a lot of work being done by analysts and investigators. Ground. That's what we've seen. Repeated attempts for the teams to go back out to the house, collect forensics. But it's an all-hands effort, and this case is reminiscent of maybe the Charles Lindbergh case almost 100 years ago. Very tragic. It was international headlines. There had been a ransom demand, and ultimately their child was found.
What's up, IB Wody?
Found, relatively near to the house. And
see what we have here. What we have here is with the FBI and local police is a failure to communicate. See, yeah, I know it's too early. She ought to be with Tupac. Oh, I'm really crazy. He says he will be with Tupac. Listen, man. I just don't. This is what I think. We're gonna figure this case out before they do. This is bigger than just a kidnapping. This is something that is dealing with multiple people. This is an organization, I think. These people made a body disappear, and nobody seen them take it. So we're dealing with, and I don't think the sheriff or the FBI, I don't think they understand the significance of this type of crime, right? These people it seems like this is someone who has political strings. They're very well connected, right? They pulled off. This has never been done before now. Just a person of this 84-year-old just disappeared, and no cars. Nobody got no cars. Nobody seen the body leave out, right? Who in there went and created a crime scene? These people went to Nancy's house and made a crime scene. They planted blood. They put the patient there. They put the Apple Watch there. And now they left the glove out there. See, the police and the FBI, they don't see that they're being toyed with. All the answers are in the beginning of the case. See, I'm clear. See, Rufus, I'm thinking clear. I ain't got no pressure on me. All I got is time to think, and I ain't got too many people in my ear. But we all know who has the answer. We know I Shannon and walk IB. Well, you crazy. They had dogs come in. They'd have sent it out already. Her body is probably been disposed of. Whoever did this has pull. They got money. They got people working for them. And this is something that's bigger than, oh, well, somebody down the street or some neighborhood. No, this extends out. And only, in my opinion, I think the only one who knows the answer, or the only people who know the answer, are the Guthries. All your information is right there. All the other shit they doing, chasing his glove, chasing some film. They've been having some guy on there just playing a film over and over again, and then chasing leads. You're trying to build a case off tip hotline. Oh, well, we know somebody over here. Or we know somebody over there. Right? And now you're going to people's homes with 12 SWAT members. And then you end up letting them go. You're like, oh, sorry, we got the wrong people. Because you're running around like a chicken with a head cut off. You're chasing a ghost right now. You think they seem to think the body was in that house. When the body was not in that house. Nancy never returned back to the home. Yeah, baby Wody. This is big, B Wody. This is some people who've done this many times before. These are the type of people who can make a motherfucker disappear. They did an elaborate job. They went, look at, after they took her wherever, they sent people back to the house to create a crime scene. Listen, there's blood on the front porch. But why have the police thought about this? If there's blood on the front porch, why is there not blood all over the house? That's one, right? Let's walk this down. Let's walk this down. 2, why would you need an excessive amount of force to take an 84-year-old lady down? Right? You don't need that. You could just come up behind her, put some smelling sauce that knock you out on her, and she's just going to go out. You didn't need to shoot her or stab her. She's easy. She's a soft target, right? 84-year-old lady will be considered a soft target. So we know that blood had to be planted there. Yeah, it was her blood. It was taken from her and then went over there and planted. That's 1. 2, let's talk about the cameras, right? All the audio, number 1, was taken out, destroyed, and Annie didn't pay the subscription on she did not pay the subscription, right? She was in charge of all the bills. Annie would go down there to her mom's house, make sure all the bills are paid, make sure, thanks, Lord. That was Annie's job. She's the one that did not pay the subscription. That leads me to believe she had to be in on this. So we have a glove now, right? They found a glove on the property. How the fuck? If you made a whole body disappear, how you gonna leave a glove? And the police aren't thinking clearly that it's a bait. They keep going for the bait. It's like going fishing. You put that worm in there, the fish keep biting, right? That's what to do. The law enforcement, the people who has done this, they keep the law enforcement chasing something that doesn't exist. Now let's talk about the ransom letters. You have two ransom letters. One, the first ransom letter came 72 hours after the kidnapping. So who does that? Time is of the essence. When you kidnap somebody, that ransom, once you get them to the destination, that ransom name needs to be there in the next 30 to 40 minutes to the family, not to TMZ, not to the news stations, because you don't want the police involved. You're trying to get the money before the police get involved. That's the objective of a kidnapping, right? You're trying to get the people, you threaten them. You threaten them. You say, if you call the cops, we're going to take your mom out. So give us whatever money we want, 6 million, a million. You do not wait 72 hours. Especially when you got an old lady who, right, she's a liability. She might not even be alive. She can die any minute. Because you know you're going to have to show proof of life. You know you got to show proof of life to get that money. But the police are so got their head up their ass. And I believe the sheriff is protecting the Guthries, in my opinion. He's protecting the Guthries. Because he's withholding information back from the FBI. And this is why their case is stagnant. This is why they're still in Arizona. This is why they're still in that same house. And they went 2 miles up the road, raided somebody's house for nothing, right? So altogether we got blood on the porch. We got a bloody glove. We got a video, right? Some guy who's masked up. He got gloves on. He got his backpack and all these things, right? And they keep playing this. They keep playing. I'm sick of that video. They got it on rewind. They play it on every news station. So that they got that. Then we got, what else we got? 2 ransom notes. And then you got another letter, a dude saying he can tell you who it is, but if he tell you, he got to run for his life. And he wants 100 bands, which is, he's not going to get that. He's not going to get 100 bands. You know, the Fed will give you 100 bands with no proof of life. So that was just a poor effort right there. They're not giving you no money, nigga. Oh, I know who it is. I'll tell you who's exactly what it is. Yeah, they're going to tell you, they want to, that's a lot of money. Maybe you might say 2,000 or 3,000, they might have gave it to you. But not no 100 bands. No way. No way. So we have here, gentlemen, in my opinion, because I don't know exactly what Nancy was doing. Was she digging in something she wasn't supposed to? Was she finna expose somebody? That's the question. So let's ask the questions that need to be answered to solve this case, right? So we can all agree that we need to find out, did Nancy set foot in that house? That's one. That needs to be verified and clarified. If not, then we got to stay there. We got to interrogate. We got to interrogate Andy Guthrie and her husband. What the fuck? What's going on? Why we don't have no proof? We don't have no proof, right? Then we got to find out who planted this blood, who is running the show, what type of organization are we dealing with? That's what we got to find out. right? We got to find out what organization are we dealing with here. Is this the Russian mafia? Is this the Mexican mafia? Is this the family? Is it Illuminati sacrifice? Is this all about fame and fortune? We need to answer those questions. And then you'll get somewhere.
The FBI database, there's likely that a relative is, and if that's the case, they'll be able to narrow down the subject of the investigation, and this could be the break they've been looking for since 15 days ago.
Savannah Guthrie made a direct emotional plea earlier to whoever has her mother, saying it's never too late to do the right thing. In these sorts of real-world hostage situations, do public appeals like that help change things, or can they potentially complicate things happening behind the scenes?
Oh, they're absolutely. She's humanizing her mother. Someone, and it doesn't need to be the individual directly involved, but someone knows something about where her mother is. And if that person, as she pled, do the right thing, can call to that FBI tip line, that could also break open the case.
We have also seen reported ransom notes demanding Bitcoin, but no confirmed proof of life. What does that signal to you so far?
Well, from the beginning, there has been no direct correlation between the ransom notes and the purported folks that are holding her mother. This Bitcoin request, they said we can give up the individual that was on that video for a Bitcoin, which is roughly $65,000. That's the price of the FBI reward just went up to $100,000. They don't need a Bitcoin. They can just call on that tip line and collect $100,000. So I really believe these ransom notes have been more of a distraction than anything else. And I don't think they have had a direct connection to who has her mother, unfortunately.
This case is drawing comparisons to some high-profile abductions from the past. What lessons should law enforcement and the family keep in mind from some of those massive historic cases?
Well, most kidnappings, everyone wants everything to be solved quickly. Most kidnappings can take weeks, months, and years. This is truly, they're looking for a needle in a haystack. People need to be patient. There is a tremendous law enforcement footprint from the FBI to local authorities on the ground. They need to continue to call into those, into that tip line. And, in the 24 hours after that video appeared, there were 4,000 leads. So there's still a lot of work being done by investigators on the ground. People need to show patience because these cases are not resolved quickly.
Authorities say that thousands of tips have poured in. Can you walk us through how teams actually break down that massive volume of information, especially in a relatively short window, to make sure they don't miss any major things?
Oh, we never had anything like this. We did have a tip line. We did have some intelligence come in, but we had to fight for every piece of intelligence that came in on the cases we were working in Iraq. And these were hostage rescue cases being held by terrorist groups. So a little bit different scenario here. Again, 4,000 tips came in that 24-hour window after that video came out. And I've heard prior to that, they had received 18,000. So think about that. If you've got 100 FBI agents on the ground, do the math, just divide and conquer. That's a lot of work being done by analysts and investigators on the ground. That's what we've seen repeated attempts for the teams to go back out to the house, collect forensics. But it's an all-hands effort. And this case is reminiscent of maybe the Charles Lindbergh case almost 100 years ago. Very tragic. It was international headlines. There had been a ransom demand. And ultimately, their child was found, relatively near to the house, and the suspicions were that he had probably been killed on the first day. So we don't want to go down that path, but this is going to go in the annals of one of the most prominent kidnapping cases, simply from the media coverage for sure on this case.
Mm-hmm. From that huge amount of experience that you do have, based on what you know far, what are you genuinely expecting to happen in the next few days?
Well, again, my hope, you can never give up hope, but it just gets harder and harder with each passing day. We know she wasn't a senior citizen. She had medicine she was supposed to be on every day. We don't know if she's been on her medications. We're going into the third week. It gets very hard, but let's hope that Savannah Guthrie's latest plea directly to the folks responsible for taking her mother, that someone will make a call and we can end this nightmare.
The FBI is awaiting DNA analysis from a glove found near Nancy Guthrie's home. The FBI says the glove appears to match those worn by the suspect in a video recorded by Guthrie's doorbell camera the morning she disappeared. The 84-year-old has now been missing for 2 weeks, and there have been no arrests. Investigators are also analyzing DNA that was found at her property, which officials say does not match Guthrie or anyone close to her. CNN correspondent Ivan Rodriguez is on the ground in Tucson. He joins us now. Ivan, what are you hearing there on the ground tonight?
Well, Paul, I can tell you that throughout the day, we've continuously seen people approach the front of Nancy Guthrie's home here, leave behind yellow flowers, signifying hope for her safe return. Other people maybe just wanting to drive by just to be able to see what all of this media presence here looks like as Nancy Guthrie's search continues on now as we enter that third week. In the last 2 weeks, though, Paula, we can really say that we've witnessed different breakthroughs. We saw the images released by F.B.I. showing that man approaching Nancy Guthrie's front door, caught on camera wearing dark clothing, a backpack, a gun in front of him on a waistband in a holster.
Yeah, Bodie, that Bitcoin. See, that Bitcoin, the Bitcoin is, you can transfer it though. I think you can move it to like another country, and then you know, America's, they can't do nothing. So the Bitcoin is easier for them to get it and move it, right? They can move it out of the United States jurisdiction, and then they can move it to maybe Colombia or Europe somewhere, and you know, they could take the money out. But the FBI is not, or the state is not going to give them no money unless they have proof of life. They need to know that she's living. And I don't think she's living.
FBI glove that this person is wearing in that doorbell footage. It could also help trace the route that he took once he allegedly abducted Nancy Guthrie, and the route that he took to get out of this neighborhood. Now, in terms of the neighborhood itself, anyone who lives within a 2-mile radius is being asked by the sheriff's department today to submit any sort of video images that they may have. But a big really obstacle that a lot of investigators have been facing in the last 2 weeks is the fact that a lot of these homes are pushed far away from the road, meaning that for neighbors in this area, there's a sense of privacy, but also it's been very difficult to find that footage that could, again, bring in that one clue.
Ivan Rodriguez, thank you. And joining us now is former Deputy Director of the FBI, John Pistol. John, there has been some criticism over how this investigation is being handled, so I want you to take a listen to what one of Guthrie's neighbors had to say.
Absolutely wish they were giving more information. I think the sheriff is a very experienced veteran of law enforcement, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's experienced with what this case is all about. And I mean, I feel like they invited the FBI in, or the FBI came in pretty quickly, but maybe it wasn't quite quickly enough.
What is your assessment of how this investigation has been handled so far?
Well, I think there's a lot of frustration out there because, unfortunately, she hasn't been found and back to safety. And so there's finger pointing that happens anytime there's a major investigation like this, when things don't go according to what people hope it will be. It's, you know, the 24, 48-hour resolution. Here we are 2 weeks later. And so I think that's a natural process, or part of the process. I think the key is, are the FBI and the sheriff's office working closely together now? And I'm assuming that is the case. And this glove that's been found, separating it from the New York Post glove that was a couple miles away, I think that's a positive development. The real issue, I think, gets back to the timing of the kidnapper does not want to be keeping her for any longer than necessary to get paid and to move on with their money. And obviously her health is just a key issue here for 84-year-old with health conditions. So there's a lot of things going, the clock is ticking. And there has to be the sense of urgency that I think we are seeing. It's a question of what are the outcomes and when will we know about them?
Now, this law.
Now, I think there is a sense of urgency. I do believe that all the police officers, all the federal agents, I think they want this done. I do think there's a sense of urgency. I just think due to the lack of knowledge on who they're dealing with is what's making this case very difficult. It's going to be, even if they find out what they're dealing with, it's going to be still very difficult to apprehend these type of individuals. But still, at least you want to be on the right track. But I think they need to reassess, reevaluate what they're up against here. I think they're up against some pretty sophisticated individuals. These guys are, this is something a normal or some lames, they can't pull this off. Like gang members couldn't even pull this off like this good. There's just no way that one person or two people or even three or even four people could pull this off like this. It's with this type of heat. And we're talking about the FBI, a very, resourceful organization. And this is something I think they should let the FBI take over. But the state hates the FBI. They hate them. They can't stand them. So I don't know if that's going to happen.
Are not played out in the public, where the ransom note is delivered to the family, and with typically a note in the note to say, do not contact law enforcement, do not involve outsiders, because if you do, then we will harm your relative, in this case, or mom. And so that's part of it. And so this is just takes on a whole different perspective, with it being Savannah Guthrie's mother, being such a well-known figure, Savannah, and then what is the end game for this kidnapper? And hopefully it's to try to get the ransom. But again, without a proof of life, there will be no ransom. There should not be any ransom paid, because they just don't know whether they're not going to pay a ransom unless they know she can be returned safely.
Savannah Guthrie makes a new plea for her missing mother, saying it's never too late to do the right thing. This, as the FBI says, a glove found near Nancy Guthrie's home appears to match those worn by the suspect captured on her doorbell video. And Coy Wire busts some rhymes with rapper Flavor Flav, the bobsled and skeleton hype man at the Winter Olympics.
Live from Atlanta, this is CNN Newsroom with Ben Hunt.
Welcome. Let's begin in Arizona, where the desperate search for missing 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie now stretches into a third week. On Sunday, Nancy's daughter, that's Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie, posted yet another plea for her mother's safe return. Have a listen.
I wanted to come on, and it's been 2 weeks since our mom was taken, and I just wanted to come on and say that we still have hope, and we still believe. And I wanted to say to whoever has her or knows where she is, that it's never too late. And you're not lost or alone. And it is never too late to do the right thing. And we are here. We believe. And we believe in the essential goodness of every human being. And it's never too late.
This comes as authorities still trying to identify the person seen approaching Nancy Guthrie's home on February 1st, just hours before she was reported missing. So far, no suspects have been named in Guthrie's disappearance. The FBI says they are now awaiting final DNA test results from a glove recovered about 2 miles away from Guthrie's home. CNN's Ivan Rodriguez has the latest for us.
The FBI says a glove found near Nancy Guthrie's property matches that of a man approaching Nancy Guthrie's front door when he was caught on that doorbell footage. The FBI says that DNA from that recovered glove is currently being analyzed and could take anywhere between 24 to 48 hours. The FBI has described this man as anywhere between 5'9" to 5'10" inches tall with an average build. Now, beyond the DNA testing, if the recovered glove is found to belong to that man approaching Nancy's front door, it could become an important clue for investigators to help track the movements of this person after they allegedly abducted Nancy Guthrie. The Sheriff Department is also asking neighbors who live within a 2-mile radius of Nancy's home to check their surveillance cameras for any sort of footage between January 1st and February 2nd, and they can submit that footage through their online evidence portal. Now, a big obstacle for investigators has been getting that clear image and videos from other neighbors in the area because homes are pushed back from the road and there's a lot of trees obstructing the view here of the road. Throughout the day, we've also seen plenty of people come by and leave behind yellow flowers of hope, hoping for Nancy Guthrie's safe return. In Catalina Foothills, Arizona, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
Joining me now is Dan O'Shea, a retired Navy SEAL commander and former U.S. hostage negotiator. Dan, we are now entering the 3rd week since Nancy Guthrie disappeared and still no arrests. But investigators say new DNA evidence from a glove appears to match the suspect. How significant is that development? And is this potentially a turning point, or are investigators still searching for a clearer break, do you think?
If the DNA is confirmed, connected to the same glove we saw on that video of the perpetrator, this could be a game changer. Even if this gentleman's DNA isn't in the FBI database, there's likely that a relative is, and if that's the case, they'll be able to narrow down the subject of the investigation, and this could be the break they've been looking for since 15 days ago.
Savannah Guthrie made a direct emotional plea earlier to whoever has her mother, saying it's never too late to do the right thing. In these real-world hostage situations, do public appeals like that help change things, or can they potentially complicate things happening behind the scenes?
No, they're absolutely, she's humanizing her mother. Someone, and it doesn't need to be the individual directly involved, but someone knows something about where her mother is. And if that person, as she pled, do the right thing, can call to that FBI tip line, that could also break open the case.
We have also seen reported ransom notes demanding Bitcoin, but no confirmed proof of life. What does that signal to you so far?
Well, from the beginning, there has been no direct correlation between the ransom notes and the purported folks that are holding her mother. This Bitcoin request, they said we can give up the individual that was on that video for a Bitcoin, which is roughly $65,000. That's the price of the FBI reward just went up to $100,000. They don't need a Bitcoin. They can just call on that tip line and collect $100,000. So I really believe these ransom notes have been more of a distraction than anything else. And I don't think they have had a direct connection to who has her mother, unfortunately.
This case is drawing comparisons to some high-profile abductions from the past. What lessons should law enforcement and the family keep in mind from some of those massive historic cases?
Well, most kidnappings, everyone wants everything to be solved quickly. Most kidnappings can take weeks, months, and years. This is truly, they're looking for a needle in the haystack. People need to be patient. There is a tremendous law enforcement footprint from the FBI to local authorities on the ground. They need to continue to call into those, into that tip line. And, in the 24 hours after that video appeared, there were 4,000 leads. So there's still a lot of work being done by investigators on the ground. People need to show patience because these cases are not resolved quickly.
Authorities say that thousands of tips have poured in. Can you walk us through how teams actually break down that massive volume of information, especially in a relatively short window, to make sure they don't miss any major things?
Oh, it's We never had anything like this. We did have a tip line. We did have some intelligence come in, but we had to fight for every piece of intelligence that came in on the cases we were working in Iraq. And these were hostage rescue cases being held by terrorist groups. So a little bit different scenario here. Again, 4,000 tips came in that 24-hour window after that video came out. And I've heard prior to that, they had received 18,000. So think about that. If you've got 100 FBI agents on the ground, do the math, just divide and conquer. That's a lot of work being done by analysts and investigators on the ground. That's what we've seen repeated attempts for the teams to go back out to the house, collect forensics. But it's an all hands effort. And this case is reminiscent of maybe the Charles Lindbergh case almost 100 years ago. Very tragic. It was international headlines. There had been a ransom demand, and ultimately their child was found, relatively near to the house, and the suspicions were that he had probably been killed on the first day. So we don't want to go down that path, but this is going to go in the annals of one of the most prominent kidnapping cases, simply from the media coverage for sure on this case.
Mm-hmm. From that huge amount of experience that you do have, based on what you know so far, what are you genuinely expecting to happen in the next few days?
Well, again, my hope, you can never give up hope, but it just gets harder and harder with each passing day. We know she was a senior citizen. She had medicine she was supposed to be on every day. We don't know if she's been on her medications. We're going into the third week. It gets very hard, but let's hope that Savannah Guthrie's latest plea directly to the folks responsible for taking her mother, that someone will make a call and we can end this nightmare.
The FBI is awaiting DNA analysis from a glove found near Nancy Guthrie's home. The FBI says the glove appears to match those worn by the suspect in a video recorded by Guthrie's doorbell camera the morning she disappeared. The 84-year-old has now been missing for 2 weeks, and there have been no arrests. Investigators are also analyzing DNA that was found at her property, which officials say does not match Guthrie or anyone close to her. CNN correspondent Ivan Rodriguez is on the ground in Tucson. He joins us now. Ivan, what are you hearing there on the ground tonight?
Well, Paul, I can tell you that throughout the day, we've continuously seen people approach the front of Nancy Guthrie's home here, leave behind yellow flowers, signifying hope for her safe return. Other people maybe just wanting to drive by just to be able to see what all of this media presence here looks like as Nancy Guthrie's search continues on now as we enter that third week. In the last 2 weeks, though, Paula, we can really say that we've witnessed different kinds of breakthroughs. We saw the images released by the FBI showing that man approaching Nancy Guthrie's front door, caught on camera wearing dark clothing, a backpack, a gun in front of him on a waistband in a holster. FBI have described this man as anywhere from 5'9" to 5'10" tall with an average build. And now this latest development here with the FBI saying that a glove found near Nancy Guthrie's property visually matches a glove that this man is seen wearing in that doorbell footage is, again, that next latest breakthrough that hopefully can bring about another lead. We know that the FBI is still analyzing the DNA of that glove, and we're told that process could take anywhere between 24 to 48 hours. So we're anxiously awaiting, as you can imagine the Guthrie family is, if they can identify this person. They'll first go through their criminal database, see if this person has any sort of criminal background. That would be the fastest way to be able to identify this person, experts say. But also, aside from this DNA evidence, the location of where this glove was found could also be an important clue in this investigation, because if that glove is said to be the glove that this person is wearing in that doorbell footage, it could also help trace the route that he took once he allegedly abducted Nancy Guthrie, and the route that he took to get out of this neighborhood. Now, in terms of the neighborhood itself, anyone who lives within a 2-mile radius is being asked by the sheriff's department today to submit any sort of video or images that they may have. But a big, really obstacle that a lot of investigators have been facing in the last 2 weeks is the fact that a lot of these homes are pushed far away from the road, meaning that for neighbors in this area, there's a sense of privacy, but also it's been very difficult to find that footage that could, again, bring in that one clue.
Ivan Rodriguez, thank you. And joining us now is former Deputy Director of the FBI, John Pistol. John, there has been some criticism over how this investigation is being handled, so I want you to take a listen to what one of Guthrie's neighbors had to say.
Absolutely wish they were giving more information. I think the sheriff is a very experienced veteran of law enforcement, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's experienced with what this case is all about. And I mean, I feel like
The FBI is awaiting DNA analysis from a glove found near Nancy Guthrie's home. The FBI says the glove appears to match those worn by the suspect in a video recorded by Guthrie's doorbell camera the morning she disappeared. The 84-year-old has now been missing for 2 weeks, and there have been no arrests. Investigators are also analyzing DNA that was found at her property, which officials say does not match Guthrie or anyone close to her. CNN correspondent Ivan Rodriguez is on the ground in Tucson. He joins us now. Ivan, what are you hearing there on the ground tonight?
Well, Paul, I can tell you that throughout the day, we've continuously seen people approach the front of Nancy Guthrie's home here, leave behind yellow flowers, signifying hope for her safe return. Other people maybe just wanting to drive by just to be able to see what all of this media presence here looks like as Nancy Guthrie's search continues on now as we enter that third week. In the last 2 weeks, though, Paula, we can really say that we've witnessed different kinds of breakthroughs. We saw the images released by the FBI showing that man approaching Nancy Guthrie's front door, caught on camera wearing dark clothing, a backpack, a gun in front of him on a waistband in a holster. FBI have described this man as anywhere from 5'9" to 5'10" tall with an average build. And now this latest development here with the FBI saying that a glove found near Nancy Guthrie's property visually matches a glove that this man is seen wearing in that doorbell footage is, again, that next latest breakthrough that hopefully can bring about another lead. We know that the FBI is still analyzing the DNA of that glove, and we're told that process could take anywhere between 24 to 48 hours. So we're anxiously awaiting, as you can imagine the Guthrie family is, if they can identify this person. They'll first go through their criminal database, see if this person has any sort of criminal background. That would be the fastest way to be able to identify this person, experts say. But also, aside from this DNA evidence, the location of where this glove was found could also be an important clue in this investigation, because if that glove is said to be the glove that this person is wearing in that doorbell footage, it could also help trace the route that he took once he allegedly abducted Nancy Guthrie, and the route that he took to get out of this neighborhood. Now, in terms of the neighborhood itself, anyone...
The FBI is awaiting DNA analysis from a glove found near Nancy Guthrie's home. The FBI says the glove appears to match those worn by the suspect in a video recorded by Guthrie's doorbell camera the morning she disappeared. The 84-year-old has now been missing for 2 weeks, and there have been no arrests. Investigators are also analyzing DNA that was found at her property, which officials say does not match Guthrie or anyone close to her. CNN correspondent Ivan Rodriguez is on the ground in Tucson. He joins us now. Ivan, what are you hearing there on the ground tonight?
Well, Paul, I can tell you that throughout the day, we've continuously seen people approach the front of Nancy Guthrie's home here, leave behind yellow flowers, signifying hope for her safe return. Other people maybe just wanting to drive by just to be able to see what all this media presence here looks like as Nancy Guthrie's search continues on now as we enter.
This is a search that's never going to end if they keep on focusing on that glove. Why is it so damn important about this glove? One glove is not going to solve this type of case. That one glove is not going to give them the answer to this case. They need more than a glove.
And security specialist Jana Monroe. Jana, so we talk about this FBI, or this, they've got this CODIS database, which is this extensive database that compiles DNA from local municipalities and federal investigations for years in perpetuity. We're learning about this one glove that has a DNA profile, I guess, that is of interest compared to the other gloves. Do you have more information on that, or can you kind of put that in layman's terms of how they've narrowed down to this is the glove they want to search for?
Well, yeah, I could put it in layman's term, and I don't want to speculate on something like that. But as was mentioned previously, there were a lot of other gloves that could have been in the area, and so they've narrowed this one down. And by putting it in that database, that they're going to come up with something probably within 24 hours or so to show if it is something that's significant to this.
Yeah, I want to ask you as well, just going off of Joey's question there, because we've been seeing this in the news from various outlets all day about this glove and the DNA profile being potentially a big break in the case, but it's been reported in such terms that's very confusing for our audience to understand, and it's being really billed as this big break here. But as far as your expertise on this, if this glove has a DNA profile, which I would assume any glove that any human would wear would have some kind of a DNA profile. If the suspect, if it is in fact the suspect's,
yeah, it's just get a bad connection. So let me see. Let me find something else. There's a bad connection. This is a very bad connection. So let me go here. Let me do this. Because it's just, well, what was that for? What was that? Welcome to the show. Hit the like button, subscribe. But this is a bizarre case. It's not really, I mean, to me, I figured it out enough to know that this is not a small case. This is something that has to do with a lot of people involved. This is an organization. It's right there in front of their face. They keep on focusing on this glove. They keep on focusing on this glove, like that glove and that video is going to solve the whole case. They have to work together to get this shit done.
I really, really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. Of course, I'm still in Arizona. It is Sunday. A lot of big developments I'm going to get to in this episode. This is Nancy Guthrie's house. Obviously, this is kind of where I've been stationed. But we got a new statement from the FBI talking about DNA that was found on one of the gloves that was recovered. And this could really be significant, especially in light of the DNA that we know was also found inside Nancy's home. So I have a DNA expert who I'm going to talk to, who is going to join me in a couple of minutes and explain the significance of this and why this does mean we could be getting closer to a suspect. Also, you guys remember the SWAT raid Friday night that I was at. I went back out to the house where the raid happened. Been a couple days later. I find a lot of times when you go back to places a couple days later, you can see if people want to talk then when things sort of simmer down. So I'll show you what that was like. Really nice neighborhood, by the way. So I'll take you back to the house. And then also more drama with the Pima County Sheriff. In this episode, I have an interview with a sergeant from the Pima County Sheriff's Office, who is also the union president, who is very concerned about the way the investigation has been handled. He's concerned about a lack of experience with the detectives on the case. and he explains to me what he thinks should be done differently and also what is being said within the department. It's the first time I've been able to interview him, and he is a sergeant with the department right now. And he was able to speak freely because he's got the protections because he is the union president. And then lastly, I'm going to get into the signal sniffer. Remember I told you guys about that? That is this device that I've now found out came from the FBI that they attached to the helicopter that can actually sense Nancy's pacemaker. Everything new I've learned about that also coming up in this episode of Brian Enton Investigates. Hey guys, all right, so I want to go over the latest with you on the newest development with the FBI statement involving new DNA on the glove. And first, the statement's a little confusing, so I'm going to tell you what I make of it in a second. But first, let me just read you this new statement from an FBI spokesperson. It says, the gloves found approximately 2 miles from the Guthrie residence in a field near the side of the road were packaged up by the Pima County Sheriff's Office and sent overnight on 2/12, and they arrived at their private lab in Florida on 2/13. The FBI received preliminary results yesterday on 2/14 and are awaiting quality control and official confirmation today before putting unknown male profile into CODIS, the national database unique to the Bureau. This process typically takes 24 hours from when the Bureau receives DNA. Investigators collected approximately 16 gloves in various areas near the house. Most of them were searchers' gloves that they discarded in various areas when they searched the vicinity. The one with the DNA profile recovered is different and appears to match the glove of the subject in the surveillance video. The FBI has and will continue to provide assistance on whatever timeline is provided to us. So the most important line here that I see is the one with the DNA profile recovered is different and appears to match the glove on the subject in the surveillance video. So there is one of the gloves that they have found that is different because they say it actually matches the glove that we see in the surveillance video at the front of Nancy Guthrie's home. And it has a DNA profile on it that they are interested in and that they are going to put into CODIS. So that is pretty significant. And remember, a lot of people are saying, well, how do they know exactly if the glove matches based on that video that we've just seen from the front door? They could have more video that we just don't know about. Nancy had other cameras, and they may only be releasing publicly the video from the front camera, but they very well may have been able to get video from the other Google Nest cameras that Nancy had. I am told she may have had one more, and maybe that also picked up video of the suspect. I don't know, but if it did, that could be another way that they're able to get a close look at the glove. So this is significant. The other thing that stood out to me is when they said that some of the other gloves that they found were from searchers that had discarded them in various areas. I mean, that just kind of surprised me. You would think that the search crews would not be just discarding their gloves outside, especially since it appears most of the searchers have been either deputies or FBI agents. And I will say I've seen some photos of some of the law enforcement out searching with these black gloves just like hanging out of their back pocket. And I noticed it because I thought, gosh, those could just like fall out of their back pocket. And then would someone pick that up and think that that was a glove connected to the case? So that part kind of stood out to me. But really the main message here is that they have a glove with the DNA profile recovered. And the glove appears to match the gloves of the subject in the surveillance video. Later in this episode, you'll hear me. I talked to a sergeant with the Pima County Sheriff's Office who actually happens to also be the union president, which is why he was allowed to talk to me. But he'll explain he's skeptical of this glove actually matching back to the suspect, just because he says there really are a lot of these gloves around. There's a lot of homeless people around. He says there's a lot of people who wear these gloves for different work that they do. So he was skeptical, but you'll hear why he says that a little later in the episode. I also want to remind you, when it comes to DNA, there was another big development over the last couple of days. The sheriff said that they found DNA in Nancy Guthrie's home, which is back there behind me, that does not connect back to Nancy Guthrie and does not connect back to anyone in her, circle of people that come to the house. So that to me is almost more significant than the DNA found on the glove, because that really could be the kidnapper's DNA. But the bottom line is they're getting DNA now in from different places, not to mention, remember the search warrant they did where they likely swabbed people for DNA there too. So the bottom line is they're getting DNA in now from different different places, and this is when you start to see a case come together from the experts that I've spoken to and from the cases that I've covered. This is when DNA experts can really go to work and they can start comparing different pieces of DNA that came in and start trying to make connections. So I get the sense that things might really start heating up over the next couple of days based on some of this new information that's coming out. So again, I'm going to get to my DNA expert here in a minute, but I wanted to get through some of the other big headlines for you, and she'll actually explain how significant this is. Something else, so remember Friday night I was at the SWAT operation that happened where they went into the house, they pulled a man and a woman out who I'm told were mother and son, and then they also pulled someone over close by as part of the same operation. And we're told there were no arrests made. It was all connected to the Nancy Guthrie investigation, but I'm told by sources not to just discount all of this, that there's still very much an investigation happening behind the scenes, that they served this federal search warrant, and that, they're still processing evidence. So I went back to the neighborhood today. I hadn't had a chance to go back since I was there when it was dark out, and I wanted to see what it looked like in the daylight, and I also wanted to go up to the door and see if anyone was home. So take a look at this. So this is my first time back in the neighborhood where the SWAT activity was on Friday night. I was here, it was obviously dark, and then I got so distracted with all the other developments of the weekend. But this is what the neighborhood looks like. It's a pretty nice neighborhood. It's interesting because again, it was so dark when I was out here. It's interesting to see it all in the daylight. This is the house here that the SWAT activity happened at, and it's pretty quiet around. I'm gonna go to the door and see if anybody is home at the house. Doesn't look like anybody's answering. I think other reporters have already been here. I'm not sure if anyone's home, although there is a car. Oh, hi, we'll be right there, it said. I don't think anyone's coming. I did. I saw someone in the window. Hello? Hello? There was a woman that just opened the blind just for a second. But yeah, I don't think they're coming out. Like I said, I think some other reporters have been here, and it looked like a kind of an older woman that opened the curtain just for a second. There's this car that was in an accident in the driveway. But yeah, so this is the neighborhood. It's a pretty nice neighborhood. Kind of reminds me of Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood a little bit. It's about 2 miles away, but the houses are much, much closer together, and they're out closer to the road. In Nancy's neighborhood, there's obviously a lot more like shrubbery and cactuses in the front. So I'll go back to that house again. I find just with my reporting that sometimes when things cool down and all the other reporters leave, and if I kind of forget about something, that's the best time to kind of swoop in and try to talk to people. So I'm going to check out the house again and just keep an eye on that whole situation, because again, while there were no arrests, I'm told that there's still activity happening behind the scenes. Something else I wanted to update you guys on, if you follow me on Twitter, I've talked about this signal sniffer, which I confirmed that I actually have video of this helicopter. We saw it last week. It was the Pima County Sheriff's Office helicopter that was hovering very, very low over Nancy Guthrie's house, and then hovering low over the side yard and the backyard and just different areas around the house. But it was peculiar because I haven't seen search and rescue helicopters hover in one place that low for extended period of times. Like it would stay in one spot for like 3 minutes and then move, but again, very, very low. And I am told that there was a piece of technology on the chopper that was sent in from the FBI called a signal sniffer. And it's a new kind of technology. It's pretty top secret in many ways. And they attach it to a skid of the helicopter, and it could actually sense Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker. Again, I'm told it's an imperfect science and it's a new technology, and it has to hover low and it has to stay in one place. That's why the helicopter was just like not moving around a ton. But they believe that there's the possibility that it could actually pick up on Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker. It also, by the way, picks up on other things. AirPods, I'm told, smart washers and dryers, all of those things. So it becomes a little complicated trying to narrow it down. But it's interesting. It is a technology that they have used in the past. And I confirmed that with one of my sources on the ground. And then News Nation reporter Libby Dean, who's my friend in D.C., also confirmed it with her FBI source that the FBI did send that technology in and that it has been used, which is just interesting because I've never heard of something like that before. And it's just kind of fascinating that they could try to detect Nancy's pacemaker. And hopefully, when I saw them using it, it was over a week ago, so I don't know if they've used it again, but it's kind of a neat piece of technology that they're using in this investigation. I want to go now, though, to Cece Moore, who is really just a famous DNA expert. She's worked on a lot of big cases, and I want to get her take on this latest information that we got from the FBI regarding the DNA on the glove and also the DNA in Nancy Guthrie's house. I'm joined now by Cece Moore. It's nice to see you, Cece.
Nice to see you.
I think it's quiet out here. Hopefully I'm outside Nancy Guthrie's house, so sometimes it gets a little noisy out here, but I think it'll be okay. Just a lot of people in the crime community know you, obviously, but just for people who don't know you, tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm one of the early pioneers of genetic genealogy, and then that transition into using it for law enforcement purposes. And I am the chair of Nano Labs. My small team and I have helped law enforcement solve over 365 cases now. So I think we've really proven the power of investigative genetic genealogy.
For sure. So I'm glad you're the perfect person for me to talk to about these latest developments with Nancy Guthrie. The first thing I wanted to ask you is this new information that came out from the FBI about this glove that was found 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's house that they found some DNA on, and they're going to put into CODIS, I guess, after they finalize the testing. What do you make of that? What does that mean?
It's interesting to me that they've agreed to put it into CODIS because that usually means that they feel fairly confident about it. They have very strict guidelines about what DNA is allowed in that database. So that leads me to believe that they have a reasonable belief that it could be from the crime scene. However, being 2 miles away, of course, I would obviously use great caution in coming to conclusions about who the suspect is just based on that alone. We've had a lot of cases where we have analyzed things like gloves and like other items in or near crime scenes. And of course, when you're doing that, it really requires that there is a lot more caution used because it very well could be an innocent person.
Yeah, and a lot of people use those black gloves for different jobs. And like you said, the fact that it's 2 miles away. The sheriff also said that they found DNA in Nancy's house that that doesn't connect back to Nancy and doesn't connect to anyone really within her circle. Because apparently they've swabbed, like the workers that have gone in and out and the family members and stuff. That to me, is that significant?
To me, that's much more significant because we know that's tied to the crime scene. Of course, it still doesn't guarantee that it is the suspect. DNA can last a long time depending on what the form is of that DNA. I've worked cases where we analyzed a drop of blood and it ended up being someone who'd lived in the house 2 years earlier. And
2 weeks ago today is when Nancy Guthrie went missing, day 14 of this unbelievable, surreal search for the mother of Savannah Guthrie, the host of the Today Show. And after a night of very intense law enforcement activity and a federal search warrant operation that yielded no arrests, Sheriff Chris Nanos with the Pima County Sheriff's Department is vowing that they will not give up. His message: we are going to find Nancy.
Welcome to the global phenomenon, Surviving the Survivor. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning journalist, Joel Waldman.
What's up, SCS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. This is the global phenomenon, bringing you the very best guests in all true crime. Hard to believe we're at the 2-week mark since Nancy Guthrie vanished. Where is she? Who has her? Everyone keeps saying this person is unsophisticated. But is the person responsible or people responsible? Are they really unsophisticated? Because authorities can't seem to find who they are. Nancy Guthrie was last seen the night of January 31st. Into the early morning hours of February 1st. Overnight last night, we saw an absolute flurry of investigative activity, federal involvement, and renewed public messaging from the sheriff. Tonight, we're going to break it all down, and we've got another panel of the best guests in true crime, which we have day in and day out. Welcoming to the show for the very first time, you've got Lieutenant Nick Alamshaw, a veteran SWAT commander. Not going to tell you which jurisdiction, but he is in Arizona, experienced in tactical deployments, warrant service, and operational decision-making under pressure, sort of like the guys who went in last night. One of the STS favorites, Dr. Laura Petler. She's been without power. She is an internationally recognized criminologist and forensic scientist. She's an world expert on staged murder. Laura, have you gotten your power back?
No, Joel. We are on day 11, and hopefully, as I spoke with Duke Power on Friday, they said we'll have it back on within the next 3 business days. So
sure they will. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I hope the horsies are staying warm somehow, and that they're okay. But
they're all doing well.
Yeah, North Carolina, what's going on with you? Duke Energy, what's happening? Last but not least here, a friend of Dr. Laura Petler, and now a friend of ours, Detective Cloyd Steiger, retired Seattle homicide detective. So we've got all the bases covered here. Let me just get into this right now with the latest statement, and this is being reported by Matt Finn regarding Sheriff Chris Nanos, who's taken a lot of heat. I'm going to read this now. He says that, this is according to Matt Finn, again, Fox News. I used to work with them. Pima County Sheriff Nanos says to expect police activity every day, giving more details about last night's massive Guthrie police SWAT activity. He tells Fox that the person detained in the traffic stop last night outside Culver's, which we believe involved a gray Range Rover, was a person of interest who was, quote unquote, cooperative and later released. As for the other 2 detainees, I'm guessing anyone at the residence was detained, but that is standard procedure to allow investigators serving a search warrant freedom to conduct their search. I was not at the scene, and I'm sure people were detained, but no one was arrested, and more importantly, no sign of Nancy was found. Let me stop it there because it goes on. But Cloyd, let's start with you, and you'll have to unmute yourself here. Again, a veteran homicide detective out of Seattle. This is the sheriff conducting clearly the biggest investigative search he has ever been a part of. And he says, I'm guessing anyone at the residence was detained. That's standard procedure. Why is this guy guessing about anything? And with all that activity last night, 3 people are detained, no arrests. What is happening?
Well, yeah, you're right. He should know what's going on, but he's the administrator and he's never handled anything like this before in his life. He's not the worker bee doing all the work here. So he's kind of on the outside looking in. He should be briefed regularly so he knows what is fact and what isn't fact. But this is a big dynamic investigation. You know, it can take a lot of different turns.
Yeah. Cloyd, I don't know how many years you were a homicide detective. I guess it was more than a couple. What's your 22? Well, 22 years
as a homicide detective.
Yeah, as a homicide detective. What's your gut telling you? By the way, he's a friend of Jim Fuda, who's a hostage negotiator who's been on the show out of King County. But Cloyd, what's your gut tell you here about who this person or people might be and what a possible motive could be?
Well, you know, in your intro, I noticed you said that didn't seem sophisticated, and that I believe that's true about the guy that was at the front door. He is not the main player in this. I mean, there's no question in my mind. He is very unsophisticated and looked like kind of a bumbling idiot to me. But he's not the one. He's not the brains behind this operation. He's just a tag along or an assistant. So it is relatively sophisticated overall. I mean, it's, you know, they haven't caught anybody yet. That doesn't mean they won't. And you know, bringing people in left and right is kind of, for a big case like this, is not necessarily unusual either.
Dr. Petler, let me continue on here, and I believe both the doctor and Nick are going to have to bounce right at the bottom 8:30. So we'll keep it short and sweet tonight. But Dr. Petler, let me read on here. Sheriff Nanos tells Fox News, every day moving forward, there will be a lot of police activity throughout the community. As to what level of activity, that depends on what lead they chase down and how it deploys. These leads start in the command post and move to the field as needed. That's one reason you're seeing activity build up as the day goes on that can ultimately lead to a search warrant looking for Nancy and any suspect involved. I mean, Dr. Petler, listen, I am a huge supporter of law enforcement, and I don't want to knock this guy too much, but what does this mean every day moving forward? There'll be a lot of police activity. I had veteran detectives on last night who said, last night, there's no way this is a nothing burger. There's no way they would deploy this amount of resources and not make an arrest and not have something come of it, and nothing came of it. What's happening here?
So, you know, when I think that it's common, and Nick and Cloyd both can speak to this better than I can, but it's common for people to serve warrants without the SWAT team. And it is common for investigators to detain somebody without that much presence of tactical deployment. So for me, when the sheriff is saying that you're going to see all kinds of activity going forward every single day, what I think that he's explaining is that they've received 30,000 tips. They're going through those. They have to go through a triage process, and then they're taking them at deeper levels to figure out what might be credible, what may not be credible, and sort all of those, and then follow up on the ones that they think may hold some weight. And as they're going through those leads, they're pursuing them in the field. So for me, it means that we're going to see a lot more of those tips that do turn into potential leads be followed through on. And that way we're he's trying to do his job is what I hear him trying to say.
Yeah. Mike, to you, appreciate you being here and or Nick, I keep calling you Mike. I'm sorry. Nick, appreciate you being here and appreciate your service. And apologies for butchering your name. I knew that would happen eventually because we've been going 2 straight weeks. But Nick, we're looking at some of the, they're pulling away this Range Rover. By the way, there are reports that the person unalived himself. That is apparently not the case. I don't know if you were watching last night, Nick, in real time, but I mean, at least 2 SWAT trucks deployed. And then today, again, he's saying expect to see this. I've never seen this, and I covered news for a long time where they're just running operations at night, kind of like what appears to be shots in the dark. I'm wondering what you made of what happened last night.
So just real quick, I just have to give a little disclaimer that anything that is expressed for me on here is not representative of any law enforcement agency. This is all based on my own experience in 18 years of being in law enforcement. But typically for a SWAT team to get involved, it has to meet a certain level before we bring out the armored vehicles and a tactical team to come and serve a warrant. And so usually you have some sort of reason on doing that. We don't just typically bring out all of the equipment and the manpower for no reason. We have lower levels that we can go and serve warrants, whether it's taking a smaller squad of guys, or we can simply just go knock on the door with detectives if it doesn't meet to that level of potential violence. So whatever they had to bring out the tactical team from Pima County, they had something that led them to believe that they could have been met with some sort of resistance or some sort of history that made them believe they needed those resources.
Explain for those of us who are not on a SWAT team, and that's everybody except for you and most of the world. Explain why 2 trucks at one location last night, and what do you guys? How do you? I mean, without giving away the secret sauce, I mean, how do you operate? Are you getting, in this case, do you think that they're getting their information from the feds, from Pima County, and just how much time do you need to prepare and go?
So it's really all dependent on the case. Based on my experience, when we've worked larger investigations, the teams are typically on standby. I don't believe Pima County has a full-time SWAT or tactical component. So for them, they have to kind of spin up, get everybody ready. And then as they're getting the information, then they can start moving on whatever operation they need to. So for them, it could be an hour, it could be 2 hours to get all their resources in place. For us, in my experience, we have, we're working with our case detectives. They're giving us information saying, hey, this is potentially what you guys may need to be doing here in the next hour or 2. So we'd have all the resources staged and ready. As you can see on the screen there, you have a large armored vehicle, which is considered, it's called a bear. And it is not uncommon for us to bring 2 or 3 of those out to an incident simply for resources. One, they act as a transport vehicle for the tactical operators. 2, we use them as cover in case something goes sideways. And then we also use them as medical extract vehicles, whether it's for neighbors, if we need to evacuate people, or if somebody gets injured, we can use one of those as a transport vehicle to get them to where we can link up with the fire department.
Yeah, and last night we kept hearing the word staging. So Brian Enton, who's a friend of ours and the best reporter on this, along with Michael Ruiz of Fox News, in my humble opinion. So Brian kept saying, hey, these guys have deployed from the sheriff's department, that they might just be staging. When you guys are, on duty working a shift, do you generally leave the headquarters and stage somewhere just in case something breaks, or do you stick around headquarters?
So it really depends on where the case is at. I've had cases where I've sat in an office for 12 hours waiting for detectives to say, hey, all right, go ahead. Or they can call and say, hey, we're going to be ready in a half hour. So we'll get the team to a staging location, which is typically a parking lot of some sort. And then we'll brief up the operation and then move to accomplish the mission.
Cloyd, let's get back to you. We'll work our way back up now. We're learning this was not a county or state warrant. This was a federal warrant. Why federal? Why not Pima County, Arizona State? I don't even know if they operate on a state level, but why a federal warrant here?
Well, I would presume it's because the federal agents are the ones that develop the probable cause, and so they just went to a federal magistrate to get the warrant. I think that's just a matter of routine. It's not that big a deal. It wouldn't have any more or less power than a state warrant would. They'd have be equal, but it depends. The federal agents can go present their affidavit to a federal magistrate, where it'd have to be a state or a local officer to go to a state court. And it's probably just as simple as that.
Okay. And Dr. Petler, I've got to come back to you because you're kind of the criminologist here. The one who's looking at some of the psychology of this. Have you given any more thought to motive here? And again, I mean, Cloyd touched on this. I'd like to touch on it with you. Basically says the guy at the door looks like a bumbling idiot, but it appears that 2 weeks in, no one knows who these guys are or why they did this or where they're hiding. Any thought about motive?
I don't know about motive, but I think that the scene is reflective of the personality of the offender, and I think that the victim is also reflective of something that we may not be able to see quite yet. And the man on the porch is one piece of the puzzle. But to me, even though he appears to be very calm, he doesn't appear nervous, he doesn't appear to be panicked, he also doesn't appear to be 100% sophisticated. And sophistication and organization are two spectrums that, when we're looking at offender behavior, and we're watching him here on the screen now, when we're analyzing behavior of people like this, for me, I don't box myself into they're organized or disorganized, they're sophisticated or unsophisticated. That's very black and white thinking, and black and white thinking can really get you in trouble in these kind of circumstances, because you have to keep all of your options open. And so in this case, I think that there's some level of sophistication in that he carrying equipment. He appears to be somewhat prepared, but maybe not completely prepared. He has a mask on. He has gloves on. And so there's some level of preparation. There's some level of thinking that went on prior. So there's a bit of sophistication. But to me, he appears to be more like a mule, where there may be a person that's in charge of more the logistics, and then there may be a person that is like a mastermind. And I was just thinking about this earlier, but I would be processing for blood going all the way out this area from the front porch all the way through the gravel here, because no matter how much it rains or snows or whatever on blood, you're going to be able to see blood with reagents and alternative light sources. And I would be interested to know if this individual walked up to the house, did he hike to the house, or is there actually a vehicle somewhere in the vicinity out there that you can't see outside this area that we can see with the camera? And does this trail of if there is a trail of blood that comes off the porch and goes into the gravel, is this person, does it lead to where they may have put Nancy in a car? And motive, I'm concerned that there's a 41-minute gap between this time that this guy's on the porch and what the sheriff said in his press conference. And this has been a while ago, but it was the press conference where he gave the timeline from the cameras. And, 41 minutes is a very, very long time to be in that house. And that is definitely concerning to me regarding.
What's your guess on that? What's your guess on that? Because it was 41 minutes is exceptionally long.
Yes, it is. And, if there's a motive of robbery, you can potentially get through everything and take what you're going to be able to actually carry if you're this guy actually carrying things out relatively quickly. You're not carrying big pieces of art out of the house. You're going to be taking things that maybe can fit in the backpack. Sometimes, I've seen them wear trench coats and they sew pockets all into these trench coats, and then they can put everything, like line themselves with materials that they steal from the house. But that doesn't appear to be the motive. So the wallet's not missing. Her phone isn't gone with her. So like her personal belongings were there. They would have most likely taken something like that. The back door is allegedly reported wide open. So it's like, was this guy's whole purpose just to get in the house? And then there's some other motive that's illustrious of time. And I think that time in the house is significant. And I don't think we have enough information yet to overreach or to go further there. I think it's important to remain ultra conservative on that point.
Yeah, thank you. Cloyd, let me just go back to you and then back to Nick. But Cloyd, just on this 41 minutes point that whoever was in the house, this is potentially an abduction and a kidnapping. I would think you want to get in, get out. Do you have a theory about 41 minutes or a theory about motive here?
Well, 41 minutes is a really long time. It tells me that the person was comfortable enough to remain in there, or else got in there and was indecisive about what they were going to do, and were trying back and forth. And it is a long, long, long time. And you get an 84-year-old woman. It's not, even if the motive is just to abduct her, it's not going to take you 41 minutes. So I don't know. Was stuff moved around inside? You got to know what the inside of the house looked like. Did they try to take her medications with them, which would be a good sign? But they felt comfortable in the house. They just didn't feel threatened that somebody's going to come by and catch them.
Now, Cloyd, something that I keep getting asked, and I haven't asked yet, so I will ask you. She was obviously on quite a bit of medication. As part of your investigation, if this is you, would you have counted, every pill is accounted for through a pharmacy. Would you have counted her because her medications were apparently left behind, but would you have counted the vials, the pills in the vials, to see if there was, let's say, 2 weeks worth of pills taken to account for time that they thought they might be holding her?
Yes, I definitely would do that. I'd go through all the medication, look at them, and if the numbers all add up to what she should have taken to that point and the rest are there, that's not a good sign. And so, but that's something you need to do.
Yeah. Nick, apologies again for calling you Mike, but 4 letters. I'm close enough, I guess. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Hope you're having a good one. Couple questions for you. Number one, HRT is apparently on the ground. That is the FBI's elite unit hostage rescue team. Do you guys work in concert with them? I know that they're, they are the big guns that train all the time. They probably, since I know a couple, have some ego, but you guys play nice with each other. And how do you interact if they're on the ground there?
So yeah, I mean, we we interact with agencies from all over. Where I work, we have really great relationships with all the agencies that surround us. As far as the FBI goes, they are a team that we do run across here and there. We've done training with them. With FBI HRT, since they're not based in Arizona, they're not a team that we see a ton. They come out and do some training, and we'll interact with them, see what the latest tactics are that they're using, and see how that stuff kind of applies to us. Now, as far as something like this, where if they're in town, it's going to be very much one of those where they're serving the search warrants or we're serving the search warrants. There's not going to be a lot of intermixing of teams, just because of the dynamics. We all do things a little bit differently. And so with them, I'm assuming that they're in town down in Tucson for the sole fact of if they locate Nancy, then they'll be able to go and do a hostage rescue on her, as opposed to having the local team do it.
Yeah. And Nick, one more question for you. Let me just, by the way, Nick, I know you have to bounce at 8:30. Laura, did you say you also had to be out at 8:30?
I'm at 8.
Oh, at 8. Oh boy. Okay. So I have 5 minutes. And then Cloyd, would you be able to stick around from, let's say, 8:30 to quarter of, which is 5:30 your time, to take some questions?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll at the very end, you've got a homicide detective with 22 years just in homicide on the panel, and I'll let you guys throw as many questions as we can get in 15 minutes. So let me get to you, Dr. Petler, because you only have 5 minutes left here. Are you 100% convinced at this point that this is a targeted attack, which has been the theory, that this was not, happenstance, someone just stumbling across the home? Is it targeted in your opinion?
Yes, and based on what we know at this point, for me, the information is consistent with Nancy being a specific person that was targeted. But I don't know beyond that, because, again, what's going on in their investigation and what we know on the outside are two very different things. But looking at her victimology, just what we know about Nancy so far, one of the ideas that, has kind of gone through my head is a person that's cutting all the grass in that whole area, and they're looking for an easy target for some reason. Would Nancy have been an easy target? One of the things is, one of the reasons she could be an easy target is because she is a low risk victim, but she's also a high risk, high maintenance victim, where her health and her mobility and aspects of her condition may be more challenging to manage for potential abductors. It's like, if you target her, are you targeting her because you want $6 million and you know that her daughter has enough money to pay you that amount of money? Or is there some other reason or some other target? Is it really about money? If it was really about money, I think it might have shown itself a little differently here, and there might have been a lot more action up front, and it could have been potentially resolved by this point. That, for it to go on for 2 weeks seems long to me personally, but like I said, we don't know. We just don't know what they know and what's really going on here. And so I me, Joel, I don't like to speculate on things, because I think that it's just, unsubstantiated opinion. But in general, the victimology is consistent at this point with it being a targeted attack on Nancy Guthrie. Yes.
Yeah. And Dr. Petler, I mean, the COE is playing stuff here. She herself said to me before I left for the studio tonight, she said, I can't believe actually how much mention there is of Nancy Guthrie on the Today Show. I mean, this is a show that if you don't have cable, you're getting it on basic TV, which almost no one, the whole world has that. Most people do have cable now, but the point is it's a massive platform, and she's showcasing her mom a lot. In hindsight, and I don't want to criticize Savannah Guthrie, I'm just wondering your thoughts. I mean, it's probably not a great idea. This is coming from a guy that hosts a show with his 86-year-old mother. But how careful, in hindsight, should Savannah Guthrie have protected her mom a little bit more?
I don't have an opinion on that at this point, Joel, because like you, I do a lot of things with my 89-year-old uncle. So, I completely involve my uncle in lots of aspects of my life. And the fact that he's 89 is just, to me, a benefit. It's not, I always say I don't have to take care of my uncle. I get to take care of my uncle. It's my honor to take care of my uncle. And so I'm a person that advocates for elderly people and elder care and, taking care of people and including them and being there for the elderly population in our country. So I'm probably not a good person to ask that, to be honest with you, because I include my uncle in everything too.
Joel, you're muted.
Yeah, every once in a while it does that. Thank you. When investigators are conducting a large-scale operation like they did last night, and now the sheriff says expect these often, does that tell you anything about where this investigation is at?
Who was that for?
Dr. Petler, that's for you. Final question. I'm sorry.
I didn't hear you, Joel.
Yeah, I'm saying when there are these large scale operations, and then you've got the sheriff saying, "Hey, yeah, we're going to be doing these for the foreseeable future." It sounds like they're throwing spaghetti at the wall. What's your interpretation of what we saw last night without an arrest, and him saying that there's going to be more of these large scale operations? Does that concern you, or is this something that you see in your own experience, that they're just working leads?
I've seen this in my own experience, and this is my 25th year in homicide, and many investigations I've been involved in, and even in our own now in the private sector, when we're actively working a case, we are definitely wanting information to come in, and we're out there chasing it down. And one of the things that is common to see in a case file in homicide investigation is like a lead sheet or some type of a document that provides information about all the leads that came into detectives or that came into other investigators during the course of an investigation. And we use that lead sheet as kind of a checklist to make sure that all those I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and that we're out there following up on those. And the agency that has like a big CID, or maybe they're being assisted by the state level agency or something like that, just say, okay, you guys go and investigate this, and you guys go and follow up on this, and you guys go to the Walmart and talk to them and ask them for footage. So all these different leads are going to be assigned to people based on my information or my experience, and everybody's going to be out in the field. And so I think what the sheriff is saying, like, okay, nobody, go overreacting here. You're going to see a tremendous amount of work being done in the field, because we are going to be actively out here chasing down every lead that we think is a viable, feasible, reasonable thing to pursue. I'm sure that out of 30,000, they're getting a lot of things that they can triage through and maybe put in a critical evidence type pile. And then the other ones they're sorting, and maybe they have lots of piles, you know, that they're sorting into different categories. But I think it's their responsibility to make sure that they are following up and triaging to be able to do that first level sort and following up on the ones that they think could turn into something that would be viable.
Dr. Petler, I love your insight and love having you on the show. And I hope you get power back. And I hope you get to enjoy Valentine's Day and give those horses a scratch under their chin.
I will. Thank you so much for having me, Joel. And we will see all of you guys later.
All right. Have a great night. Cloyd, to you, someone in the chat here just mentioned this. You're looking timestamps on video. My dash cam, car clock, iPhone, stove clock, light timer, bed alarm clock, all have different times with differences up to over 60 minutes. I guess the big question here is just timestamps on the various electronics.
Thank you for coming to the show. Hit the like button on the way out the door. Rufus is signing off.